Hi, everyone. Welcome to Pivot to Profit, where personal growth meets business strategy. And I'm your host, TaVia Woolley. Now, if you've watched this podcast before, you're probably thinking, like, what's up with the background? Yes, it is a little different. At the time of this recording, I'm in Seattle, Washington, and I will be presenting at the Academy of Health conference on my research that I am a co-principal investigator on. And as I was sitting over the weekend reflecting on my journey to get to this point, I was reminded that no matter the goal you want to achieve in life, there is a process that you must go through in order to get that thing. And so in movies and films, they usually call it the hero's journey. I believe they call it that in books as well. So as I was reflecting on my own personal hero's journey to get to this point, I thought about the transferable skills or the process that it took to get here and how it could benefit you. I'm going to share with you that process. The first thing was you have to define or identify what it is that you actually want. Now, in previous episodes, I've talked about how to achieve goals. And the first thing before you even do the thing, like the steps to achieve the goal, is to be very clear on what the goal is and to make sure that's actually what you want to do. So that process remains the same in this system, right? I knew I had a desire to be a researcher, and the why behind that was very solid, rooted in logic, research, right? And so I was clear on that. The thing I did next after that was I reached out to trusted people who had resources or larger circle of influences that I could trust with this vision of mine. Not only to share to see if, was I on the right track, if this made sense, but because I also knew that they had options and opportunities to connect me to other people. And so I wanted to make sure those individuals who I trusted, trusted confidence, resourceful people, were aware of my goals because I just believed that they would connect me to other people. Now, this particular person I did speak to in December of 2021, and I shared the goal of becoming a researcher and why I wanted to be a researcher. And while she at that time wasn't quite sure of any opportunities, what she did provide me with was a name. This well-known researcher in academic institutions, and she said, "It sounds like your work aligns with the type of research she does. You should check her out." And so that was breadcrumb number one, and I went on my way. I went to her website, the academic institution website, and I consumed as much information. Then I purchased books on that particular type of research so that I could be informed and ensure that that is the style of research or the methodology of research I wanted to pursue. In fact, it was. So that was a good look. But if it had not been, I probably would have just continued to look at other online resources, other academic institutions, and continue to follow the breadcrumb until I found specifically the niche or the alignment that worked for me. So number three, the third thing I did was I opened up my perspective. And what I mean by that is I did not have a set way I felt like I should go about achieving the goal. Success was not defined, like the steps it would take to get to that was not defined. So I allowed room for interpretation and opened up my perspective. What that really did is allow me to be more open to opportunities. I don't know about you, but if you've ever went for shopping for a car or you have a dream car, right? Say it's a red Mercedes Benz. And you notice once you decide that you want a red Mercedes Benz or you purchase the red Mercedes Benz, you start to notice all the red Mercedes Benz on the road. That's the similar concept. It's very much the same. When you open up your perspective, you are much more aware to the opportunities that are all around you. I have a saying that money is quiet, it's always around you, but you have to pay attention and attract it to you. Well, similarly, opportunities are always around you, but if you have a prescribed way that you feel like this should roll out or how you should achieve it, then you're not going to be open to those opportunities. So I highly encourage you to open up your perspective, which makes you more highly aware of the opportunities that are all around you. Now, because I was aware and open to all the opportunities that were floating around me, I started to execute on those opportunities. So randomly one day I got an email. And in this email, I can't even recall who the email was from, but it was one of those emails that provided you with information about other opportunities that are going on. Now, if I'm being honest, usually I don't open those emails because I don't want to sit there and read through everything. But for whatever reason, that day I opened up the email and I started to scan. I didn't read everything, but I started to scan through the email. And all the way at the bottom was this research assistant opportunity at UCLA. Now, at the time, by this point, I am a graduate student, but I don't go to UCLA. And so they had contact information for the lab. And so I reached out via email. I let them know I don't go to UCLA, but I am a graduate student and I'm interested in developing my research skills and I would be interested in applying for the research assistant. I applied, I heard back from them a few days later, and I was accepted. So keep in mind, right, at my big old age, a graduate student, a wife, a mom, running a nonprofit, and doing all the things, I'm a research assistant in a lab with a whole bunch of undergraduate students. Now, for most people, that doesn't sound appealing, and there was times when it didn't sound appealing to me. But nonetheless, I was getting the skills and experience I needed to one day become a researcher myself. So sometimes those opportunities are not glamorous. Sometimes those opportunities put you in situations that you're like, I'm a little too old for this, or this is not how I thought it would look. But if you're really committed and serious about achieving the very thing that you want, sometimes you'll walk into the situation humbly and learn from those around you, even if they're sometimes younger than you. From there, because I landed that research lab position, I saw another opportunity at the school I was attending for my graduate program to be a research lab assistant on campus. So I applied for that. And of course, my experience in the other lab, plus my academic background, I was a shoo-in. And so these were two different research labs studying two different things, but nonetheless, I got the experience and I started to grow. I will also say that even in that research lab at the school I was attending, I was the oldest person, but it's okay. It's all right. I got the experience, and that's the most important thing. So in addition to those two research labs, now remember the person I told you about that I spoke to in December 2021 about my desire to really develop as a researcher, evaluations, all the things you really determining how things work and what the solutions and challenges are? Well, remember how she gave me that information for that research professor who's like well known in an academic institution? Yeah, her. While she did not at the time have any direct connections to research, that didn't mean she was going to always have no direct contact to research. So eventually, she comes back to me and she says, we have a project working on evaluations, and we would love to have you be a part of this journey. You guys, okay? This is why you are always meant to share your vision and dreams and goals and your gaps with people, trusted advisors, excuse me, because you never know when things might change. So because she knew I was deeply passionate about developing the skills and evaluation and research, and for her work environment changed in which they were going to start working on evaluations, she invited me to be a part of the project. So now at this point, I have 3 active research evaluation type projects going on so that my skills are developing. And you know what? I was a happy camper. I was on my way. Now, here's the interesting part. Eventually, my work started to move. It started to shift towards understanding root cause issues through data, right? And so I found myself with work projects that were aligning with where I wanted to go. And so I was co-designing a program that tested lived experience and how it impacts systems, such as county departments, things of that nature. And within that program design, we built in an evaluation and research study of how impactful lived experience could be on public systems and how public systems can impact individuals with lived experience. Y'all, we're making movement, we're making progress. So now my work is starting to align with this. And because of that, now I'm getting knee deep in the work. In fact, that particular project that I worked on when my work life was aligning is the very research project I will be presenting on today. That brings me to one of my last points, and that is you always have to stay ready to execute. You never know how quickly things will shift and your work or your desire will start to align with your goals. It's important to work through the self-doubt that you might encounter, the imposter syndrome that might be sitting there, and you got to stop second guessing yourself. Remember, movement creates momentum, and through momentum, you will be refined in the process. I was always willing and ready to execute, even when I didn't believe in myself, even when I was unsure of where this project would take me. Always be willing to execute. And lastly, I just want to remind you, as my friends lovingly try to remind me often, that Rome was not built in a day. When you decide on a goal, you have to commit to the process. All right. And the process doesn't happen within a 24-hour period. Between today, where I will present at this research conference as a researcher, and when I decided I wanted to be a researcher, that's about 5 years. Yep. And in that 5 years, I developed, I learned skills, I made mistakes, I grew, built momentum, and refined myself in the process. And now I get to reap the benefits of being committed to that goal. I'm sought out for research projects. I get to head up a research project. I consult on different various projects that involve research and data. So maybe research and data is not your thing, but whatever the thing is, I believe these steps will help you get closer to achieving that goal for yourself. Remember, no matter what, identify clearly what it is that you want. Share it with those you trust, wise counsel, okay, those who have a circle of influence and resources that are bigger than yours. Be willing to open up your perspective, which allows you to be much more aware of the opportunities. When you take those opportunities, no matter how big or small they are, you make sure you execute on those opportunities and watch how your work starts to shift that will align towards achieving your goals. Well, that's it for you all. I hope you enjoyed this quick, down and dirty episode on goal achievement in the process. This is Pivot to Profit, where personal growth meets business strategy. I'm your host, TaVia Woolley, and I look forward to speaking with you in the next episode.